Good evening. My name is Brett Stallcup. Welcome to Choices Podcast Official.com, our live stream show. You can find us at Choices Official Podcast, Choices Podcast Official.com, or Choices Podcast on the Facebook group. And if you go on the Facebook group, you can use the comment section to ask us questions, which we encourage. We are all about making choices in the personal, professional, and relationship part of our lives. Tonight's show is on adversity and how you can make better choices even when you're in the midst of adversity. So meet our co-host Carcass John, and he's going to get us started and also introduce our special guest.
Good evening, Brett. Good to see you as always. I went really out on a limb this time, and I'm going to blow your mind. I don't know if you probably have all of the Twisted Sister catalog in your collection there. Maybe not, but I came across this was a recommendation from one of my cohorts on the Metal Roundtable, another podcast I do. Anyway, it's called "Wake Up the Giant" by Twisted Sister. And I'm just going to read the first phrase. It says, "Gather around us, join the band. Together we're stronger, together we'll stand. Say what you can do. Well, we've got a plan, and we're going to take you to the promised land." I just like how positive that sounds. And it's not like, hey, look at me, look at me. It's like, let's gather all together. Let's put it together as a team, and let's do this. Let's succeed together. And the song goes on to say, we got numbers, yeah, we got the might, we got the strength, we got the right, we got the reason, and we've got the night. Say, wake up the sleeping giant. And I feel kind of like it as a nation, we're kind of looking at ourselves going, what's going on? And I think you're starting to see people wake up and gather themselves and try to figure out how to move forward, how to feel better and how to feel happy. And the great thing about life is you don't have to do it by yourself. It starts it with your individual self, but you don't have to do it alone.
Carcass, preach, Carcass, preach.
Well,
I love
yeah.
it.
No. See, I think there's inherently good in all things, including rock and roll and heavy metal. But and speaking of which, we have a pretty special guest tonight. I've known Tanner for a while now. I think we've done over 200 episodes on the Metal Roundtable, and he was in the early, 50 to 60 range. So he's been around for a while. He's been on the show. He's a good contributor. His name is Tanner Poppitt, and we'll bring him on here momentarily. Hey, Tanner.
What's going on, guys? Thanks so much for having me.
Welcome to Choices Podcast. Now, Tanner and I go back a ways, like I mentioned. He's a fantastic guitarist. He played in a band called Madrost, and he's going to have to define what that is because I'd asked him several times. But he and I have crossed paths several times. He was on tour, back in the mid-aughts, and I'd seen his band to the point, and I liked him so much that I went and bought a bunch of stuff from their merch table, trying to keep him alive, trying to keep him in gas money. And when he was on the show the first time on the Metal Roundtable, it dawned on me that I knew him from somewhere, and then we reconnected, and we've had a chance to actually get into more each other's lives a little bit more. And Tanner has had some real twists and turns in his life. He's got a huge following on his own podcast called Poppitt's Corner, and we'll let him explain that. But I was telling Brett about it, and Brett loves music. Tanner's a great musician, so we should all get along because I love what Tanner did as a guitarist and as a songwriter. In fact, you can kind of squint and look in the back and see one of his. I think is that your last record, the red one? Oh no, that was the last one was blue. Oh no, that was the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good deal. Well, introduce yourself. Above and beyond what I've already said, because Brett and I will have some questions for you, but you have a very interesting story, and quite frankly, our discussion turned in a direction where I just didn't think it would ever go. Not that because I thought you were a bad guy, but just because I didn't think that you'd had that experience, and it really it really turned you on a dime and it headed you and pointed you into a different direction. So I'll let you have the floor. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. I don't know how I could follow that up, so I'll do my best. Okay, I promise everyone. So, thank you, John, and thank you, Brett, and of course, Monkey Butt for having me in advance. I want to really do appreciate all of you. You know, appreciation goes a long way, and through the experiences that I will talk about in a minute here, you do learn to appreciate things a heck of a lot more. So, thank you very much, guys, for everything. It's the little things that make the big picture. So, I'm a firm believer in all of that. But what John is referring to is, so this kind of all started back in, I would say, 2021. The band had just released our fourth record, entitled "Trying the Rotting Earth." Big success. We just got signed to No Life Till Metal Records, so everything was kind of on the up and up. And one day in practice, I'll never forget it. We were jamming, and I suddenly felt this big pop in my wrist. I didn't know what was happening, but it literally made me have a huge headache afterwards. So I didn't know what was going on. And it kind of freaked me out because as soon as the pop handed or did its thing, I literally couldn't hold anything anymore. So this hand was pretty much out of commission. So I had to kind of, cancel the rest of the practice, and basically I couldn't rehearse that specific day. And it turned into weeks and months, and I saw countless doctors along the way, and nobody could really tell me what's going on. I had did tons of tests and tons of therapy, and nothing was really working. So I got kind of a little nervous, because guitar playing was really all I had at the time. So in order to combat not going to the dark side, I started to kind of hang out with actually the artist who did most of our album covers, Mr. Tony Cole, and I was crushed. Imagine you, John, not being able to, do art anymore. No, you can't create. It's the only thing you have. I mean, Brett, for you, I know you're a lawyer. It's like not being able to like make a living or practice and do what you love to do. So, yeah, I was really crushed. So in that time period, I was hanging with Tony, like I said, and he just had this great idea of, he always wanted to work with a band that kind of went into the back catalog and released, stuff from, that was never released, live records and things like that. So I literally released, and I brought them out to show all you guys here, stuff from the back catalog in the course of a year or two. So bear with me one sec, right? I mean, it's a lot of stuff. It's like live records, working with Bill Matoyer, right? That kind of stuff that I had in the archives and vaults. And so that kind of kept me going for a while, right? At least I had something to look forward to, right? A project. And one day, after doing so many podcasts, again, another project with Poppitt's Corner, and I really appreciate the kind words there, John. I really do appreciate that really does mean a lot, because there became a moment where I didn't really think anything that I had done mattered to people. I was in that kind of funk where it was just like, did I really make a difference kind of thing? And then throughout the days and months or whatever, that quickly kind of went away. And so as I was doing the podcast, and my brethren here, Mr. Shannon Fry and I, we were having this off the wall conversation behind the scenes and discussing just some of our favorite documentaries. And it kind of dawned on us, because one of our favorite bands was a band called Heretic, which there you go right there, which had never had a movie based on them. They were a heavy metal band from the 80s. They were associated with my all-time favorite metal band, Metal Church. And we were just wondering why they never had anything. And so it kind of dawned on me that, I had kind of done all these reissues in the course of 2 years, had nothing else, literally nothing else to go off of. And so, I basically picked up a camera and said, I would like to give this a shot and become a filmmaker rather than kind of sulking in this like, woe is. And I bought, books. This this is called Take Control of What's Controlling You, right? I've been reading a lot, and it's kind of really been helping me out. But I needed to have another avenue to create, and so I found filmmaking. Now, just within the past year and a half, I've made 3 films. This was my first one. This was my second one, and then the third one is actually being edited as we speak. So I found a new avenue to continue to create, facing adversity, because that's the theme of today's episode here. And I now have something that I can control and can look forward to creating. So
let me, if I can just interject something. So the context, just for context. So the diagnosis that you had about your hand basically rendered you weren't able to play guitar, period. You just couldn't do it. And so you were trying to figure out, to use your words, instead of sulking, you came up with this idea. And I know Shannon Fry too. He's been on the other show that we're familiar with. So he basically said, you should try this, and you've discovered that you're actually pretty good at it. In fact, I have a copy of the Heretic documentary. It was a band that was somewhat obscure, and a lot of that stuff back in the 80s and in the early 90s was pretty obscure, and you kind of brought some things to light and some connections that I didn't know we made. But so the process of making a film, what are some of the hurdles there, aside from the fact that you've laid your guitar to rest and you probably won't ever play it again? That certainly has to be kind of at the back of your mind, right?
Well, not really, because I'm going to be just completely honest, because I've never told this story to anyone. You guys are kind of the exclusive here with all this stuff that's been happening. I haven't discussed this publicly on any other show. So, basically, with filmmaking, I've actually found like a really appreciative community that I didn't find in music. Music and metal especially. I'm sorry, John, to burst anybody's bubble here.
Oh,
It's
I
a
love
dog.
metal, man. I love my
You're
metal
not going to
clients
burst my
too.
bubble.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a dog eat dog world. It's like
Yeah.
literally this band versus this band, politics versus politics. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
And so what I was finding was we weren't really respected in our community. Like, without Scott Waters and those amazing kind of opportunities that he provided, I don't think I would have the catalog that I have. So a huge part goes to Scott and Bill for that. But we had nobody that believed in us. We didn't get signed until 13 years into our career. Nobody believed in us. The fire that kept me going was I just wanted to create a legacy for myself. And, we had a few kind of things where, hey, your album means a lot to me, kind of compliments. But in the overall grand scheme of things, like, we were not really respected or appreciated. And after a while of not being appreciated, I get sick and tired of spinning my wheels. So I needed to find something that I could still create in and again be appreciative. And I think I found it with filmmaking. Like, we did 2 premieres for the films, sold out the first one with the Heretic film, and brought 200 plus people to the sideshow documentary. So I've been doing extremely well with those, and the theaters are appreciative. It's not like booking a show where, like, how many people are you going to bring to our bar to drink alcohol? It's none of that. Like, it's actually a very supportive and appreciative community. So
you were at the Y in the road when you had your disability. You were making your living playing guitar.
no, I was not making a living. It was my passion. It was my
It
art.
was your passion, but yeah. So you're sitting there and then you can't play guitar anymore, and you're in the ditch, and you're going, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? So you're at the Y in the road.
Right, as far as creativity wise,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'm an
You
artist.
need to feed your creativity.
Right. So
So
it's
instead of playing guitar, you go to filmmaking, and you've done great.
yeah,
So you
and
made better choices.
yes, yeah, I would say so. I wouldn't say better. I would say I've made choices that fit me more so
Oh.
than in the past, right? Because I don't think anything's better. It's just a matter of what works for you. And I think
So
filmmaking. Mhm.
tell us how you came to making the choice. Did you ever get depressed or anything like that? Or
Oh,
what
multiple
tools
times.
did you use to make the choice that you made?
So, yeah, multiple times I was depressed. I had basically nothing. I had to start from ground zero and
Oh,
learn
wow.
how to make a
Yeah.
I learned how to make a film. I had seen Ed Wood's movies, who I absolutely respect and love his works. Depending on who you ask, it could be the worst film of all time or the greatest films of all time. Um, for me, though, it was knowing that, like, anybody can do this. That was a big eye-opening experience for me. Anybody can make a film. Anybody can, and if this guy can do it, so can I. And that was really uh, therapeutic for me to kind of find out. So, and yeah, the tools I needed, I didn't have any tools. I didn't know what the first thing I needed was.
Well, how'd you teach yourself?
So thankfully I have a great coworker by the name of Terrence Love at my actual job. And he's a photographer. He's been a photographer for 50 plus years. And he lent me a camera because I didn't even have a dime to my name when it came to that stuff. So he lent me a camera that would work best for what I was doing. I didn't know it was that kind of inexpensive. He set it up properly because of his years of experience. So he lent me the camera, the lights, the everything. And then basically, as I was making the film, I would give him back certain pieces because I would buy them for myself so that I can have my own tools of the trade here. So it was really eye opening just in terms of what you needed to get started making a film. And a lot of people say, "Hey, I'm going to make a film," and then it never exists. Well, I just basically made a film on the whim, no training. I edited it, directed it, produced it, whatever you want to call it, wrote it, even though the story was already there, made the contacts, interviewed about 20 people for the film. So driving a lot of hours planning and interviewing and editing. I was working with 60 plus hours of footage for the first film. That was just the interviews, plus the pictures and video that I was provided from the band. And thankfully, this band is very accommodating. They had a lot of stuff. So um I think obviously it was a total team effort. I had my dad behind me, who I'm so appreciative of. I got it. I mean, my mom and dad are my world. My family is my world, and I don't think without that support I would be here. I think family support is really important.
It's good.
Well, kind of like the song lyric, obviously, individually, we have to be good. We have to make good choices and do the right things, but we don't have to wend our way through life by ourselves. So without that support mechanism, to your point, you'd be in a much different place and had to make different choices. And Brett, just for more context, this particular band, there was a lot of information, but there wasn't a lot of live footage. So you sort of had to, didn't you just sort of have to create that live feel by just with interviews and pictures and some of the snippets that you were able to find on the
Well,
internet, or how did that work?
so a lot of the footage I used for it, I had to go out and film myself. So a lot of those live shows in the film are actually me filming it. Like, I would go to see them live, and I would film them at their live shows. A
Because
couple,
they've circled back together, right? They were out of commission for a while and then got back together, what, in 21 or 22? Or
no,
was
no,
it further
no.
back than that?
They did they got back together for a show in like 2003, and then
Okay.
2008 is kind of when they were getting back together, and then 2011 is when they actually like reformed, put out a new record the next year, and we're just rocking and rolling. But there, because of the loss of storage units that had a lot of the footage that I would have loved to have used, they didn't have very much. So I was only working on like 1 or 2 live shows back in the day, and then everything else I kind of had to create. I asked around. I found some footage from like 2011 that my buddy Mike shot, and I obviously so appreciative that I got to use that footage in the film. And just, these little, again, it's the little things that make the bigger picture. I'm just going to re-emphasize that point here. And I hope the story inspires someone out there. It's obviously one piece of the puzzle here, because there was a time too when, I spoke out against pedophilia and had a huge backlash against my points of view, and that's kind of also what kind of steered me into this like other realm. Like I didn't want any part of the metal scene from there on out because of how much backlash, and as I guess, can I say this, Carcass John? The acquaintances that I once had or thought were friends weren't there. So that was kind of, yeah.
That's sort of what we talk about in the recovery world. You change the people, you change the places, you change the things in your own way.
Well, like Chuck D from Public Enemy says, if you can't change the people around you, then change the people around you. And that's basically what you had to do. And I find it amazing that, just because you don't espouse a certain ideology, why that's wrong. Don't we have free speech in this country? And I know Brett is pretty adept at the law. So as I remember, we do have the ability to speak our mind, and everybody has an opinion. And I was at Brett, I was going to tell you, as I was listening to Tanner tell me this story, I was stunned a little bit and disappointed in just the community in general that he got such a backlash just because he didn't agree with this. What was it?
Oh no, I spoke
like
out
drag shows at a kindergarten thing or something.
Yeah, transgender drag show, story hour, showing their units to small children. Like I don't agree with that. I think it's wrong behavior.
It's wrong. It's wrong, dude.
But
there ain't no right pill in that you can take.
I thought
so. Tin Man, stay with me, Tin Man.
All right,
I love your nickname. So you didn't know how to do. You film with what kind of, like a Nikon camera, like a.
So I filmed with a Canon M, or I think it's an E50 or M50 Mark II now. So it's the second type of it. But
you taught yourself how. You didn't go to any classes or anything like that. You taught yourself how to do all of it.
Yeah.
And then your film was like incredibly successful. Carcass told me.
Yeah. Well, I got to give, again, I didn't know how to hold a camera. And thankfully, because of Terrence, my coworker, he taught me how to hold a camera. Like I didn't know you're not supposed to do it like this. You're actually supposed to hold a camera where it's like,
I already failed.
Right. Yeah. So most
people already failed the class.
But you actually put your palm out and hold so it's like you're stabilizing it from here instead of this. And that was a big, again, the little things make the bigger picture, right? So
we used to have this exercise in my motivational seminar that I did forever. And I made it up, to be honest with you. It was called Can to Can. And you live that in your life where someone would say you can't do it and you showed that you can. You took a camera that you didn't know how to operate and you made it into the can by being very successful in your filmmaking. I think that's really, really cool.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I didn't really look at it as that. I just needed to have a place to be able to create still, Dude,
I'm going to ask you a question, Tin Man. You telling me that I can go out like Kevin Costner and make Yellowstone?
Yeah, you could make.
Dude, I'll sign up for that tomorrow.
You can make Dances with Wolves. He directed and starred in it. You can be the next Kevin Costner.
You can do your own thing about a guy in court.
I want to do what they did in Yellowstone and take someone to the train station, man. I want to take her to the train station. There's about 3 people I have on that list that need to go off the cliff, but I'm just
but
kidding.
to your point though, you know, you mentioned Yellowstone and the big movies have teams, man. Like obviously we're just one individual and it starts with one. You know, one is a powerful number in my opinion because it can do a lot. A lot of people use excuses to not achieve their goals, and I don't do that. I would much rather fail and at least achieve something than be able to hold it in my hands, right? Like this exists, and that was important to me. Didn't matter
How'd you,
the
how'd you get the
content.
money to produce it?
Um, it wasn't a lot of money to be honest with you.
Uh-huh.
And I have great connections for people who kind of make these out of their house, and so it was relatively, you know, inexpensive. And thankfully, I have people who have the skills and are on my team now
Mhm.
to help me further my vision and believed in what I was doing. There it is. See, there you go. I'll make sure Brett gets one and Monkey Butt.
Oh yeah, dude, I gotta have
on
one of
that.
those. I gotta
Um,
look.
And then
I'll
he
get.
did,
Mhm. Yeah, I
yeah.
just did that
And
for fun, dude.
yeah, this is really killer. It's got it's just a bunch of live stuff and videos and whatever. But man, I got to tell you, Brett, Tanner's being a little too humble because he's been knocked down a peg or two, and to his point about the team effort, I mean, I've done a little TV stuff. I've been on a movie set before. I could tell you when and where at another time, but it is a massive undertaking, and it's, as Shakespeare used to say, it's much ado about nothing. I mean, it takes 200 or 300 people to make one quick scene, and yet Tanner took this thing under his own wing, and yes, he had help, and yes, there were people that assisted him, but uh, this movie, this documentary, did looks like I mean, it looks like a big Hollywood production. It's something you'd see on Netflix,
He could
and
have rode off and stuck his head underneath his pillow on his bed and not come up for a week,
and he
but he didn't
decided
do
not
that.
to.
Yeah.
Well, and I know Tanner just because of the nature of the music that he was playing.
Mhm.
I knew that there's something about metal, and I don't want to pontificate too much and get too far off track, but there is something to be said about metal, that it's more of a lifestyle, it's more of an attitude internally and mentally and emotionally, and it's not just a passing fad. It's not like something that I can't even describe. It either you get it or you don't. And most people that listen to that heavier style of music, there is a camaraderie there. And when that gets pushed aside for some reason, it's very, very emotional and it's very hurtful. And I had a somewhat of a similar experience. And Tanner's familiar with the band War Beast. Um, when my good friend Bruce Corbett passed away, um, I had been an integral part of the band as their artist and their creative person, and we created this persona, this character that became the identity of the band, not unlike Eddie from Iron Maiden and so forth. But when Bruce passed, it was just like, okay, we don't have a need for you anymore, and we swept you aside. And I could have done very much the same thing. I could have sulked, I could have hung my head, but then I just thought, you know what? I'm going to go do other things. I'm going to get better at something else. And so I made a choice, and that's what happened. Now, some of that has circled back to me, and it's kind of fun to disseminate. And we've talked about. Remember, Brett, when you asked me, what is the uh, how long does a promise to a dead man last? You know,
Yeah.
what's the and it never
What's the
ends. I mean,
statute of limitations?
what's
Is it
the
2
statute of
years, 5
limitations of
years,
that?
10
Well,
years?
there is none, and so fortunately, that's all worked itself out, and I knew it would. But um, to the point, um, you have to sort of face your fear in the or your rejection in the eye, and just move on and try something else. Uh, Go ahead, Tanner. I can see that your brain is spinning right now.
It's
So go
gonna
ahead.
explode right now. So but to go up, I gotta tell this story. And again, judge me all you want. It's totally fine. but I found God as well during this whole kind of thing.
Yes,
You
I
know,
love it.
so I just
Preach,
want I just want to
preach,
tell this
man, preach.
really quick here. And again, you can judge all you want. Only God. I've learned that only God can judge me, and that's about it. So as I was going through this whole thing and like literally deleted all my social media, got terrible emails from acquaintances, judging me on doing what I thought was right, speaking out against horrible behaviors. Um, I really felt alone. It was like a very surreal. I had 3 people reach out to me. One was my buddy Matt Hartnett, who I'm making movies with um, to this day. Um, Mark Rivas, my drummer of Madrost, and Tony Cole. In which Tony Cole actually made me a painting, basically with a text message saying, and when he came on the podcast and whatnot, he made me a painting as we were doing the show, and it said, "If you ever feel alone, just know that somebody is rooting for you and appreciates and supports you all the way." So that really made me feel like $1,000,000. I was called transphobic, homophobic, a piece of shit, an asshole, you name it, racist. I have no idea how that even comes into play here with what I was discussing, but hey, it's all good. But there was a moment where it was pitch black. It was probably like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. I'm laying in my bed and I'm looking up, and the white ceiling kind of, I always think that there's like angels or spirits, whatever you want to call it, kind of floating around me. And I felt this rush of energy, and like I've never experienced it before. I was telling Carcass this a few weeks ago after we did the that episode, and I was basically telling him like I had never experienced that one iota, and I knew it was God. I knew it was God kind of putting a warm blanket around me, saying it's going to be okay. Like I got you, and that was really powerful. I'll never experience that in any other facet, and it kind of let me know that God is real. So I've kind of changed my tune on a lot of things. I've accepted God into my life and Jesus Christ. So that's kind of where I'm at now, and yeah, I'm just grateful to still be here creating, and I hope the story inspires someone, or if it even isn't an inspiring story, I don't know, but this is what happened to me, and you can take it for what it is, whatever you need out of it. So I appreciate you
10
guys
man,
having me, man.
10 man. God wants you to know that you're a champion. Can you say that I'm a champion?
I'm a champion.
You are a champion, man.
Same with you guys.
You did the ultimate can to can. I'm so proud of you. I mean, it's so awesome.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's look, it's something that I needed to go through for myself, and I hope everybody gets the opportunity to experience that, because it's very powerful. Like it's something I can't even explain to you. You definitely appreciate life more, so I can definitely tell you that much.
I think one of the things that I always learned is it's a different kind of kindness you feel toward other people. You know that if you're kind to other people, that it's okay, and you show more love and support for other people, and that's good.
Yeah, you have to. You have to.
I just hearing your story, to me, that's divine intervention. Oh, you didn't even know how to hold a camera. You hold a camera. You held one like I do, and then someone taught you how to hold a camera. And next thing you know, you produced a film. That's like incredible, man. I mean, it's divine intervention. God rewarded you for coming to Him. I think it's cool.
It's awesome. Yeah, I never
Well,
heard
and
it put that way before.
and and I'll tell you this much, Brett. I see a lot of shows. I mean, I as I'm readying the house for the big event at the end of August, um, I'm finding ticket stubs and flyers, and my mind always harkens back to that experience. And I can't remember, Tanner. Do you remember the exact year, or more or less the year that you played the Rail Club, the infamous Rail Club here in Fort Worth?
Yeah, it was September of 2012, and hopefully I
Okay.
treated John like $1,000,000 that he remembered that I wasn't
Well,
such an asshole.
but
So
but here's the deal. You know, I to my point, I'm seeing all these bands, and some bands are great and but I always have a feeling about certain people and certain bands and certain music, and that's what the power of music is. There's sometimes a connection there, and then when you enjoy the music to the point where you're hoping that um, that Tanner's not Axl Rose or somebody jerky like that, that it's even better. And I knew there's something different about Tanner only because of I saw his passion, I saw his expertise, his prowess. The band was tight and well practiced. It takes a lot of effort and money and motivation to just say, I'm going to pack mom's van, maybe pull a small trailer and go out on the road and go basically door to door and sell your CDs. And that's basically what it is. It's like a vacuum. It's like a Hoover vacuum salesman, except a lot louder and you make a lot less money. And I knew back then when I bought that CD, that was the only CD I bought that night, by the way, because I could have bought from any of those bands, but I bought yours because somehow it meant something to me. And so that being said, here you are. It's kind of like you've come full circle, and now it's time to move on to the next circle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but look
So
how Tan Man comes across so brilliant. He's got a brilliant mind. It's just moving. And to add art and heart to a brilliant mind, amazing things happen.
I think
you
he's
know?
unstoppable.
Yeah, he's
I think he hasn't
unstoppable.
even reached his potential yet.
No.
Oh, I appreciate it. And Carcass, I gotta say this too, man. Like I envy people like yourself, like people who can draw. It's amazing what you guys can do. Like you create your own world, and it's something that I like, dude. If I showed you paintings in here, which I have some on the wall, they're not very good. Okay, I'm not a painter. I hire people that could do stuff like that. So I couldn't create my own world. So I think I'm a visual learner, and I think visually I try to excel at that because I can't. Lord knows I can't draw, but I can do other things.
But you
And
can see. You can
right,
see something and capture it.
right.
So Tan Man, tell me something. What do you want to tell our audience about when they're facing adversity? What 3 tips could you give them to walk away from this show?
Know that you're not alone, because there are billions of people on this world, and because you're in this particular moment, it's going to get better. Um, and all and just know that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to reach out to friends and family and say, "Hey, I'm going through this. I need to know that either A, you have my back, or somebody to talk to, or you're never alone in those situations because God's always with you." I firmly believe that now after going through what I've been through, and that it's going to get better, right? It's always this or something better. That's what I'm a firm believer in. That's what my mom has always taught me. Um, I think it's when you know that, like, you're not alone, and, like, it's this is maybe the lowest point, but you haven't even reached the highest point yet. So I think you need to kind of take a step back, breathe, and hopefully I'm making more points than 3, but those are what I would kind of would.
So how the day that you woke up after you had that defining moment when you were asleep and looking at the ceiling, how did your life change the day to day?
Well, so I wasn't asleep. I couldn't sleep. And I just
Okay.
felt this rush of energy. It felt like almost a warm blanket. Like I needed a big hug because I was so just distraught and alone, and I couldn't run to anybody. And that was like God's way of saying it's going to be okay. Like I got you. It's very powerful. And I woke up the next day just feeling like, was that real? Do you know what I mean? Have you ever had
Yeah.
that? I mean, Brett,
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to ask you. I'm sure you've had that moment where it was like, did
Oh,
that
yeah.
really happen?
Yeah.
And Carcass, have you ever had that?
Oh yes, many times.
You know, and behind the scenes, Monkey Butt, have you ever had that? You know, because it's like a powerful thing.
Yeah.
Can't even explain it.
So once you decided it was real, talk to me about how your life changed after that. I mean, did you?
Well, I just got back to, they say, there you go. I love it. He says, yes. You know, I took a step back and started to find other people that were like me. Like I started to just only associate with people that I wanted to be like and associate with myself with, because you are who your friends are. You know, that's another thing that people don't realize. You are who your friends are. If your friends are drug addicts, you're a drug addict. Is pretty much you'll become a drug addict. It's inevitable.
100%.
You got to cut the cancer out when you know we're at the source. So I started to associate myself with people that I wanted to be like, and that included successful people, you know, people that were, you know, had never made any, you know, records or whatever the case may be, but they were on the level. Does that make sense?
Yes, a lot of sense.
Like, I think because I needed to find people who were on the level or were on my level. You know, that I started to kind of start over. It felt like I started over. I started to read more. I started to not go on social media because I deleted all the accounts. I made a promise to myself that, you know, after the 30 days of, hey, you can turn your accounts back on if you want, after, you know, but it goes away after 30 days. Like I told myself none of this matters. None, social media doesn't matter. It's fake. I'm not missing anything. So that was, and I was addicted to social media. I mean, I would post on there constantly. And I think that was a big thing, big change. And
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. You know what? I do a lot in the recovery world on alcohol, drugs, and pornography. And I'm going to even say that we need to add the social media addiction to our recovery world and make it where you can go to treatment for it and the insurance companies have to pay. I think that needs to happen.
Well, yeah, it's anything that gives you that rush of dopamine. I mean,
Dopamine, right, dude? Okay, what'd you know about dopamine?
It has to be it has to be talked about, right?
Yeah.
Just because you don't drink it, or it doesn't affect you like physically or whatever. I mean, mentally your mental health is the most important thing.
Well,
in terms of
actually, now that you brought up dopamine, the dopamine levels are actually higher when you're in like pornography, and I bet they're higher in social media than they are even in alcohol and drug addiction. I would bet that.
Well, and also too, I think technology wise too, I think looking at a screen all day is really bad for you. I think, you know, people have to read more. People have to go outside more. People have to, you know, we're in a society now that like, it's not encouraged to read more or to go outside more. It's encouraged to like, hey, everything's on your phone or on the TV. You have 50 million apps to watch whatever bullshit you want. Excuse my language here. But it's not, you're not encouraged to like better yourself. You're almost encouraged to like, hey, let's see how fast you can die and see how long it takes you to rot.
Yeah. That's good. Well, Tam, man, we've enjoyed you on the show. You've been
I hope it didn't bore anybody, man. So that's
your choices and on your adversity and the choices that you made and how honest you are in your heart. Dude, I didn't know that you got God in your life. I just found that out on the show, but it was obvious that you had a defining moment where everything was like, boom, I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to stay in the ditch. I'm going to get out of the ditch and I'm going to do things differently with different people. And I think that is like, you know, give me somebody in the road to recovery like what you were headed. And I'll take them any day of the week. You know what I mean? Someone that has suffered loss in some capacity and turned it around with their biggest asset, which is their mind and their heart and their spirit, I'll take them any day of the week.
To add to that point, in order to get there, you have to tell yourself that you got this. That's where it starts. Is you. I don't think people give themselves enough credit. You know what I mean? Because the words are really powerful in terms of I got this. And if you say you got this, it means you got it.
All right, Tan Man. Here we go, Tan Man. We always like to end our show with a quote that helps with choices. Tonight's quote comes from a dear friend of mine in Florida. Her name is Jessica Clark. She's very brilliant. She's a smart person. I was on the phone with her and I said, give me your favorite quote. She said, sometimes to be alone is great company. I like it.
I like it too.
Yeah. And Tan Man wants to add outside. Sometimes to be alone.
Get outside and be alone.
Yeah, it's great company. Well, we appreciate you, Tan Man. Thanks for coming on our show.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And as long as they don't make me get recovery for a tasty riff like you used to play on guitar, I'll be just fine. But thanks again for being honest.
Tan Man, I want Carcass if my wife will let me. She wouldn't let me before, but I want to go to a mosh pit. Would you go with us when I go?
Yeah, I'll film you.
Huh? Get out of here.
Yeah, bring it on.
All right, man. Y'all have a great night and a great week.
Thanks for having us, guys. I appreciate
it. Thanks again, Tanner. See you, Brett.
Yeah, babe. Bye-bye.